And it really does tie in with Harry and Meghan, although we won't over-egg that particular pudding at this point. You think that's reality? How many years was I in this job before I managed to shrug off the idea that what I'd read in that morning's newspapers was actually reality, rather than a very carefully cultivated corruption of reality designed to serve the interests of the people that own the newspapers, or the people that own everything, you see? So I thought, growing up, that unions were bad. I thought that they were... I thought of Carry On at Your Convenience. I don't know if you remember that, when Sid James played the shop steward in a lavatory factory, and it made a mockery of sort of Spanish practices and One Out, All Out. It was a very funny film. My dad... My family have a trade union background. My maternal granddad worked in the steelworks of Sheffield. That the importance, the value of a trade union was just never really drummed into me or drilled into me. My dad covered the miners' strike. We hardly saw him for the duration of that industrial action. And I don't know, but it reached me as a schoolboy via the newspapers, via the media, as a very different reality from what I now know it to be. Orgreave, for example, in other countries, Orgreave would be whispered in hushed tones. It would be spoken of in the same breath as Hillsborough and Grenfell. And yet most people listening to this programme right now probably don't even know what it was. Think back to, if you want to be really nuts about this stuff, go back to the Peterloo massacre, when workers dared to suggest that they should get a better deal, and they sent in armed soldiers to cut them down with sabres. We don't thankfully live in that era now, but we live in an era where the RMT, I don't think, are just trying to secure their own terms and conditions. And you can phone me and tell me whether I've got this wrong or not. I think if I was a member of the RMT, I'd be worried about the future of the railways. What's the equivalent of rivers full of shocking amounts of sewage? What's the equivalent with the railways? So I see them very similarly. I see them as fattened calves offered up for privatisation. And we know what's happened to... See energy companies now. People can't pay their energy bills. Where does all the money go? But let's focus on that parallel there. What is the relationship between railways and customers, railways and public, in the same way that the water companies? What would be the equivalent for the railways of having rivers full of shocking amounts of sewage? I think we're pretty close to it. My wife tried to get to Leeds and back yesterday. She'd have been better off on a unicycle, quite frankly. The fact that the trains ran at all, eventually she managed to get on one to get there late and managed to get on one to come back late. It was close to miraculous. And what she told me, and you've told me this as well, was the sense among passengers now isn't even of expectation. There's a sort of resignation, particularly travelling north to south, Manchester, Yorkshire. And this is supposed to be a first world G7 economy. And our railways don't work. And when the RMT turn around and say, you shouldn't just be worried about our wages, you should be worried about what they're doing to the actual railways. Prioritisation of profit. Oh, we don't need guards. And then all your ludicrous Daily Mail, Murdoch columnists line up to say we don't need guards at all. We don't. Well, come on then, lads. Why don't you hand your columns over to the AI that Elon Musk is working on? Because they'll probably do a better job than you do. But when it's train employees, oh no, we can do away with them. And let's pretend all the people taking industrial action are drivers on a half-decent salary. Let's not talk about the cleaners or the platform staff or the people who are working on close to minute. It's just ridiculous now. Absolutely ridiculous. How skewed, how distorted all of these issues have become. Or is it? Is it actually the old model? Is it actually selfish, ridiculous, unthinking to crack on with strike, even up to and including a Christmas Eve strike? It's likely to start from 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve right through until 6 a.m. on December the 27th. That is the crucial bit. That's the bit I'm going to hit you over the head with repeatedly. The RMT has said that workers will walk out from 6 p.m. on Christmas Eve, although disruption is likely to start earlier, until 6 a.m. on December the 27th. So the rail strike is going nuclear.